mediation, great, like I think that's a great outcome. But I'm just concerned that since we said we don't like better understanding as a goal, that better understanding is still not deliverable. What do people think about that?
The idea of understanding, for a moment, I'm gonna set that aside, but the idea of policing, I think is one thing you would hope kind of came out of that, because if the officer is doing a traffic stop, if it's because of some incident that occurred, the citizen understanding that or learning that information is going to be something that you would expect. At the same time, if there was a basic policy, protocol that the officer violated, that's something the citizen would get out of that as well. So I really see nothing wrong with a better understanding of policing.
Is there another word you feel comfortable with this one?
Maybe
discomfort. Better?
no, understanding is my discomfort, because we said that we did not think it was a goal of mediation for the parties to understand each other, but to hear each other.
Yeah.
Like gain better knowledge.
Right.
I was just thinking of that.
Like, maybe they would understand each other, but what we can reasonably name as a goal is that they listen and hear each other. That is what we named in our goal
Yeah,
statement.
but that's two different hearing, it's two different things.
Related to feeling and
Communication
experience,
is to understand.
and this is related to policies.
And you were the one that actually had an issue with understanding before, right, Deb? You were the one who actually named that issue before when we were talking about it with the mediation definition.
I do remember you making a comment that it could be insulting for someone to claim to understand you.
Yeah. But these are two different goals. When you are having one is me trying to understand you and your personal experience. This is about a citizen or a resident understanding police policies and procedures.
Okay.
And that's not.
So maybe the issue I'm taking here is
Those are
better
subjective.
understanding of the police
That
officer.
maybe should, right, that's what I wanted.
Maybe it's better
That should be
understanding of the
separated,
police
take that
officer's
out.
actions. Would y'all feel all right if I said it?
processes.
Or better understanding of policing and the police officer's actions.
You could say the citizen has gained a better knowledge of the police officer and policing, gain better knowledge.
Well, I think maybe you do take police officer out and put in policing or police
Let's
policies.
say police officer out, I think.
Right.
How do people feel? Is there anyone objects to taking police officer out? Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel, I think it goes very well with the better understanding of police officer. I mean, it's community building, relationship building. So I need to have an understanding of this police officer, this person, and the policing policy that I can walk away. You know, listening and hearing half the time. You listen, you don't really hear. You hear, don't really listen. But I walk away with an understanding of that police officer. Then I understand of that person.
And, I think that's.
I walk away with,
Right.
more human interaction.
Ted and Connie, then
I didn't know about the controversy about understanding. I hear it now. I think that better understanding is the goal of mediation.
Yeah.
I think that that it's mutual, that the police officer would understand the citizen and the citizen would understand the police officer better. And understanding policing becomes important because when you understand why the police are doing a certain thing, then you know it wasn't personal.
Right.
It was a part of a systematic way, so we wouldn't have the same negative attitude about it. You may want to then talk about what can we do about the policy if it's not a good one.
Right.
Or maybe the policy is a good one, I just didn't understand why it was good and I didn't recognize that in that behavior. So I don't see a problem with even understanding in. My only problem would be that the way that says our goal is better citizens understand police officers better, I think it should be mutual.
well,
Better understand. Oh, it's in the book?
Connie's next.
My thing with the understanding the police officer could be removed, in my opinion, due to the fact that understand why you need it to be in, but I don't need to understand it, I just need to understand the policing policy behind it. You understand what I'm saying? Two humans gonna always have a different outlook on things, so I don't need to understand the police officer. I just need to make sure that he's doing the policing well.
How about better understanding of police officer and or policing?
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we're going to be trying to develop consistency, and if one of our objectives in consistency deals with relationships, you can't take the people out of the relationships.
Right. I am willing to withdraw my flags. Am I the only one who had any concerns about this one?
Including your other team member. I had a big set of concerns.
Okay, so we're just gonna withdraw our 2 yellow flags then, because it sounds like we have consensus.
I think
Yeah.
you could look up, go to the legislature to understand policy. It's about building community relations. No conflict is the order of the day. But through understanding, we reach a resolution.
And not only that, but I agree with Lou and also with Al. I mean, something that we find here in New Orleans time and time again is that two individuals can really get along and, and the individuals might really have some major problems with NOPD policing, both the officer as well as the complainant. And so sometimes that individual relationship actually needs to be the highlight or the priority.
So we've adopted,
Let me
Sorry.
raise a question there. The idea of, someone said it over here about and/or, better understanding of the police officer and/or policy of
Policing.
policing. I think that takes care of it.
how do folks feel about adding the slash or? Any objections to that?
Well, because I'm just the way this reads, the citizen has gained a better understanding of the police officer and policing. So you're saying put the,
Slash or after A.
Because you may get one and not get the other.
Yeah, like what Connie had said before, which is that some people might get the policing angle, but really won't get the individual stuff.
All right,
I
so-
would suggest, oh,
Yes, ma'am.
sorry, if we're going to do that, I think we'd have to say the citizen and/or the citizen complaint.
Yeah.
So that gets us all the way down
Citizen to begin with.
to number 3, decreased number of complaints over time. And I know we put a red flag because we didn't want to be responsible for that outcome, at least in the early stages of the program.
I think that I was the one that actually felt the strongest about it, so I can speak on it. Where's that? So our concern was is that it might very well be that complaints actually do decrease over time, but that we don't want to have this mediation program be responsible for the decrease in complaints over time. There might be a number of officers that, depending on whether we actually make this program mandatory or not for officers, there's maybe certain officers that are not a part of this program, and so maybe their complaints will actually rise over time. Or, it might be possible that mediation will be successful in some categories and not in others. I mean, we haven't gone into inclusion-exclusion criteria yet, but, certainly something that we've been talking about is that there's, that mostly mediation is going to involve issues of professionalism and discourtesy as compared to uses of force and or wrongful arrest, are larger issues which traditionally mediation programs don't deal with. And so those complaints might stay steady, they might increase. We really can't. I feel strongly, at least, that we can't be responsible for it.
Okay, just, I guess, a point of clarification. Are all of these, we're gonna measure ourselves by to determine whether it's successful? Or are some of these things that we're just gonna measure to just see if we having some impact on? Because I see that as being a different issue. I agree with exactly what you just said, but it doesn't mean this should not be something that we track on some level. And if it disappears totally, you're not gonna have any idea if you are having any impact in that vein.
Good point.
Although our program doesn't have to track that, it's already being tracked by PIB, the number of complaints over time. In fact, they track it quarterly.
Yes, but at the moment, it's not tracked related to mediation. Now, if they're gonna track it if they're gonna track it for mediation and then see if there's any kind of correlation just for informational purposes, I don't think that's something they would do. I'm thinking that's something that
What would the tracking for mediation look like?
those officers who are involved in it, just what she was just addressing.
Oh, like
those officers-
specific officers who
Right.
did a mediation, their
Right.
complaints go down.
Right, if there's any history there, or whatever the case is there anything going down, or whatever the case is?
I have less concerns if we're only tracking complaints for those officers that do use mediation. But the problem with that issue is that we still haven't really made a decision on issues such as how often can an officer mediate complaints, how often, I guess that's the basic issue.
I think that there will be, when we do, our decision about what kind of data collection we do, which is a separate decision from our quality assurance, that we could do it there. Because this is really about how we measure success. But I can flag that we want to measure participants' complaint rates for purposes of investigating this program. That's out there.